came forth, which greatly intensified the fire, which was already burning, and caused the sacrifices to be consumed instantly. God was signifying that he accepted the worship and all the acts of consecration of the priests. The priests were performing their work, and God accepted their sacrifices. So, I thought that interesting that, early on, you will see the glory of the Lord. And that is exactly what they did. They did get to see the glory of the Lord. And this was definitely a miracle, if you will. And so, and I'll go ahead. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron and his sons that this is how they are to bless the Israelites. The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace." The Lord continued saying, "So shall they put my name on the Israelites, and I will bless them." So that right now, at this moment, things are happening like they should. They are, again, the service is being set up. The priesthood is now in effect. And then we get to Nadab and Abihu. And you remember you had Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. That was the Aaron and his sons. Well, here in Leviticus, if you're in Leviticus, we'll go ahead and read verses 1 through 3 here. Then Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, each took his censer and put fire in it, put incense on it, and offered profane fire before the Lord, which he had not commanded them. So the Lord went out so fire went out from the Lord and devoured them, and they died before the Lord. And Moses said to Aaron, "This is what the Lord spoke, saying, by those who come near me I must be regarded as holy, and before all the people I must be glorified." So Aaron held his peace. So you see that this is something that this is right very early on. And I'm going to read what Bob has to say here. Nadab and Abihu, the two of Aaron's sons, each took his censer, a metal bowl. I guess we know what a censer is, and put coals in it, added incense, and offered strange fire, which the Lord had not commanded. Promptly fire came out from before the Lord and burned them to death. The thing about it is, we see the death of Nadab and Abihu occurred between the offering of the goat for the sin offering and the eating of the flesh of the sin offering by the priest. This means it occurred immediately after the consecration process was ending and the normal priestly duties were beginning. And do you remember what the Lord would tell them? Do it this way. And what do you remember the instruction that would kind of follow that up? Make sure you do it this way. And there was a reason behind that. Yeah, but lest you die. And you're right. It's a pattern. You follow the pattern, lest you die. Now we get to see where that is exactly what happened, lest you die. And so we'll go ahead and read in Leviticus 10, 4 through 7. Then Moses called Mishael and Elzaphan, the sons of Aziel, excuse me, my throat, the uncle of Aaron, and said to them, "Come near, carry your brethren from before the sanctuary out of the camp." So they went near and carried them by their tunics out of the camp, as Moses had said. And Moses said to Aaron and Eleazar and Ithamar, his sons, "Do not uncover your heads, nor tear your clothes, lest you die, and wrath come upon you. Wrath come upon all the people. But let your brethren, let the whole house of Israel bewail the burning which the Lord has kindled. You shall not go out from the door of the tabernacle of the meeting, lest you die, for the anointing oil of the Lord is upon you." And they did according to the word of Moses. And I have no doubt that they definitely did that. And I want to come back and touch on that about that profane fire. Well, what does the word profane mean? I mean, that's what the New King James Version uses. Profane. If something's profane, yes. Strange, polluted. it's contaminated, it's polluted. There's something wrong with it, and so there's no doubt. We'll go ahead and read a few more verses, and then I'll come back and kind of touch on that, and kind of something that Aaron's about to do as well. And the Lord spoke to Aaron, saying, "Drink no wine or strong drink. Drink no wine or strong drink, you or your sons with you, when you go into the tent of meeting." Again, notice that, "lest you die. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations. You are to distinguish between the holy and the common, between the unclean and the clean. You are to teach the people of Israel all the statutes that the Lord has spoken to them by Moses." And Moses diligently sought the goat of the sin offering, and behold, it was burnt. And he was angry with Eleazar and Ithamar, the sons of Aaron, which were left alive, saying, "Wherefore have you not eaten the sin offering in the holy place, seeing it is most holy? And God has given it you to bear the iniquity of the congregation, to make atonement for them before the Lord. Behold, the blood of it was not brought in within the holy place. You should indeed have eaten it in the holy place, as I commanded." And Aaron said unto Moses, "Behold, this day have they offered their sin offering and their burnt offering before the Lord, and such things have befallen me. And if I had eaten the sin offering today, should it have been accepted in the sight of the Lord?" When Moses heard that, he was content. So we see another situation here that looks like, have y'all not learned anything? And I wanted to read this right here. Oh, any thoughts on that before I read or anything? I didn't know if anyone had a comment. "The sin of Nadab and Abihu was in offering strange fire before the Lord, which he had not commanded. Yet it was after the death of Aaron's two sons that, and that's in Leviticus 16:1, that God's instructions are recorded that the coals to burn the incense were to come from the altar of burnt offering. These instructions are given in the context of the Day of Atonement, and that's 16, 2 through 3, 6 through 10. The high priest was to take the incense in with him when he took the blood of the bullock, and that was the sin offering for himself, into the most holy place. Now it may be inferred that this command meant that under ordinary circumstances as well, the coals of burning incense had to come from the altar of burnt offering. But there is no specific command to that effect recorded before these men died. Therefore, there is uncertainty about exactly what made the fire used by Nadab and Abihu strange fire, except that it was not what God commanded. Strange incense would be incense prepared differently from the way God had prescribed. And that goes back to Exodus 30 and verse 9. There are two possible explanations. One is the more traditional one, that Nadab and Abihu sinned by using fire from some source other than the altar of burnt offering. This position is supported by the fact that the sin was in the offering of strange fire, which the Lord had not commanded. The problem with this position is that we find no command given on the subject until after the deaths of Nadab and Abihu. Nevertheless, it could be inferred that since they offered fire which God had not commanded, that there was a fire which God had commanded. They weren't just, you don't just make it up as you go along, So while if God says get it from one place, it kind of excludes everything else. I'll just do that in. Which meant that there was a fire which God had commanded, a commandment which the priest already knew, even though it was not yet in the text as it is arranged today. And Nadab and Abihu did not follow God's instructions. The other position is that Nadab and Abihu, all struck by the fire that came from the Lord and consumed the burnt offering and the fat which was upon the altar, took their censers to offer incense which God had not commanded that such a thing be done, thus a strange burning or unauthorized offering. In either case, the sin was in doing what God had not commanded. It is very important to see that doing what God did not say is as bad as doing what he has specifically forbidden. And we live in a world where if God doesn't speak on something, I guess we can do it. No, it doesn't work that way. Just saying. There is no question about God's right to destroy these men. They had been disobedient. They had ignored God's rules. so they deserve punishment. The only question we raise is exactly which rule they had disobeyed. The point we are making is that there is not enough information given for us to know exactly what was wrong, but we have enough faith in God to know that He did know what was wrong and that He was just punishing these men. So when you look at this situation, you know, whatever they did, you know, if they got the fire from the wrong place, if they knew there was a specified place, if you get it from any other, is it okay to get it from any other source? Well, of course not. You know, He specified the one, or if it had been the incense. But the second thing there I wanted to bring up about, you know, Aaron in that situation, when Moses asked why the meat of the sin offering had not been eaten, any reason that sounded as if Aaron were saying, we did not feel like it. And you can imagine his sons have been killed, and you know, he's not to grieve at all. And you know, but anything that sounded like Aaron was saying, we did not feel like it, would have not been accepted by Moses. The point was that Aaron, along with Eleazar and Ithamar, felt defiled by the sins of Nadab and Abihu and did not feel worthy to eat the sin offering. This answer was the only one that would have satisfied God and Moses. So you see a humility on their part. They feel under the circumstances they're not worthy. And so, and I'll go ahead and read this too. If that's, God did not continue striking priests dead every time they disobeyed Him. The point was that this sin occurred immediately after the consecration and just as the priests were beginning their new work. If God had made His point, if God had not made His point now, that He demanded careful observance of His rules about sacrifices, then the negligence would have multiplied from the first. And you see that in anything. If you set down something and people just run over it, if you don't say something, well then, what good is, you know? But God wanted the point made, and He did. A parallel account occurs in the New Testament when Ananias and Sapphira were struck dead when they lied about the money they had received for the land they had sold, and that's in Acts 5, verses 1 through 11. Again, that event was very soon after the new covenant had been set into effect, and God was making His point that He demanded His children act the part. You know that we can't get away with just anything. And one of the things, you know, God doesn't continue striking down. You know, like today, you know, there are people doing all kinds of things. God's not just striking people down, but just starting in the priesthood, and He makes it lest you die. Well, now they get to see a firsthand God means exactly what He says. And then again, I think that's a good parallel looking at the New Testament, Ananias and Sapphira. You know, right out of the gate, and then, you know, as the new covenant's beginning, and then people are just, you know, like, we can get away with whatever. No. So just saying. So is there any questions or thoughts on that before we move on to the next point? All right. Well, so we see the priesthood's been set up. We already have a serious situation that happens right off, But at least it seems like Aaron's got a good attitude now. Losing his sons, he's doing what God commands, to stay where he's supposed to. They're not to grieve. Let the children of Israel do that. And then we come to blasphemy and its punishment in Leviticus 24. And if you turn over to Leviticus 24, and we're going to read that, but it starts in verse 10, and it's here on the screen here. I'll go ahead and start. Now an Israelite woman's son, whose father was an Egyptian, went out among the people of Israel, and the Israelite woman's son and a man of Israel fought in the camp. And the Israelite woman's son blasphemed the name and cursed. And I think the implication there is blaspheme the name of the Lord. Then they brought him to Moses. His mother's name was Shelemith, and the daughter of Dabri of the tribe of Dan. And they put him in custody till the will of the Lord should be made clear to them. And so the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Bring out of the camp the one who cursed, and let all who heard him lay their hands on his head." So these would be the witnesses, those who heard him do this, and let all the congregation stone him, and speak to the people of Israel, saying, "Whoever curses his God shall bear his sin. Whoever blasphemes the name of the Lord shall surely be put to death. All the congregation shall stone him, the sojourner as well as the native. When he blasphemes the name, shall be put to death." And so when you look at blasphemy and just how serious that is, and I won't read all of this, but if you go through here and you look at that, and I think we know what blasphemy is, and to curse, to say things that are, especially when you talk about God, you should only hold him in the highest respect, show great reverence and carefulness. And when you don't do that and you say things, and it's amazing we live in a world that takes the name of the Lord in vain, as it were, different slang expressions and that kind of stuff. And people don't seem to, what amazes me is we seem to live, I'll hear, the radio may be on and I'll hear a song, and it talks about things that, are, there's no song, what was it, Heaven is a Place on Earth, and I went, no, it's not. And what gets me is how people so just can take things that are uncommon, and they just bring them down and make them common, if you will. And you might hear songs or read something or see something, and people just take it so casual. And and God, there are things that are uncommon, and you don't bring those down. And just saying, I think we see a lot of that around us. So how people do certain things. I'll turn over to Proverbs 24. I'll read that real quick. "He who says to the wicked, 'You are righteous,' him and the people will curse. Nations will abhor him." I'll go ahead and read verse 25. "But those who rebuke the wicked will have delight, and a good blessing will come upon them." There are those who, I think it was mentioned in a recent thing, who put light for darkness and darkness for light, who call good evil and evil good. I think we live in a world that just flips everything around, and you got to be very careful. To curse, a primitive root, again, a lot of things here, and so we want to lightly esteem, and so that's just some various things right there. So Moses spoke to the people of Israel, and they brought out of the camp the one who had cursed and stoned him with stones. Thus the people of Israel did as the Lord commanded Moses. And so one of the things that I wanted to read here, about this event, at some point during the months at Sinai, the time is not given, that's when this took place. Again, God was making the point that he intended his people to keep his laws. They could not expect his special blessings if they did not keep their side of the covenant. If the people had continued to administer the assigned punishments when the sin occurred, then sinful practices would have been sharply reduced, and their whole history could have been different. And if you think about that, if you look at this at our country now, and just to say this, let's say somebody gets convicted for murder, and the death penalty, now they're going to get the death penalty. How long does it take for that to usually work out generally?
10 years.
Or more. I've heard of some. There's a guy now, I won't say just executed him, happened back before 2000. It was like 1997 or something that he killed somebody, did something, and it's just now. So better than 10 years, I think, Yeah, it's almost like, they get sent to prison and they just, they're on death row. But this death row can go better than 10 years, 20 years, you know. So the point is, you know, if you don't take care of, you know, and I'm talking about people, I mean, there's no question, you know, they're guilty. But God, you know, that's one of the things, you take care of the situation instead of just kind of letting it go with Nadab and Abihu. If he just, well, okay, you know, don't worry about it. You know, you can start seeing where things can get way off track, and it's like, well, it doesn't really matter, does it? Yeah, it really does matter. And so, just saying, God is not mocked.
When you was reading,
Uh-huh.
what was about Nadab on that Ananias fire,
Uh-huh.
back when God struck him dead,
Yeah.
you read on down, it says fear come upon the whole church after that.
And
The reasons.
yeah, and the point of it, and I don't think I remember to turn this on. Maybe I did y'all a favor. But you're exactly right. Yet fear came upon, and it had the intended purpose. I mean, they deserved, you know, lying to the Holy Ghost. You know, there are things that are unacceptable. And if you bring God down, as it were, and you make it, you know, take the uncommon and make it common, no, you don't do that. Things that are holy, things that are set apart, you don't just mix them in. And I hate to say it, we live in a world that, you know, you kind of do what you want to do. Hey, you like this, go that way. You like that, go that way. Yeah, and we get to see, you know, the world in which we live, how that works out. Any other thoughts on that? Oh, yes, Barry.
You know, I think we don't see people die like that. You know, well, sometimes people die when they commit sin, maybe, but you know, you see God's perfection. You see His perfection in His judgment with Nadab and Abihu. You see His perfection in mercy to us and other people. Like you have to just believe that he's perfect, and that what he did there and what he does when he gives mercy, it's all perfect. And we don't have that knowledge. And part of what we do, I think, is a mistake, is to assume that. So like what Nadab and Abihu may have had in their heart, similar to what maybe Cain had in his heart, and other people throughout time, and you know, he has perfect. He's just perfect in all his judgments, whether it be that punishment right then, or if it's the extension of mercy to those that are, you know, have mercy at times. So I'm probably not wording that very well, but it's just to have faith that He's perfect in all that.
Well, I think you're right. I think you're right. He knows exactly, you know, the time for punishment, the time for mercy, and you know, the thing I think about that kind of hit my mind. If people really believe, like you said, that we don't see people dying like that now, but if people really believe that eternity was before us, and they really believe that God means exactly what He said, do you think people would start like, maybe I need to know what's in there? You think there would be so many people here, you couldn't get in the building? Do you think at various places there'd be so many people that like, hey, you know, I want to be saved. I want to know about God. I want to serve God. I want to do, you know, all these things. But it's not before us, as it were. People dropping dead and miracles go on, you know. And people just, I can kind of do what I want to.
He hasn't changed too.
Right. Yeah. Nope. God has not changed. Yes.
Take exception to what you just said,
Uh-huh.
because they had Jesus that was performing these miracles. They had Jesus perform these miracles. And, you know, maybe God now, right here before them, and they still chose to want to kill him.
Well, I mean, if it hit them like it should, is what I meant. Yeah, like if they realized, hey, I'm on the edge of eternity. I mean, you know, they got the true sense of what it was about. Yeah, exactly. Well, just like the people in Jesus, if they had really, if their hearts were like they should have been, good and noble hearts, it could have been a different story. Yes.
This also goes back to the garden, Genesis 3. They were walking with God, talking with God, and he gave them one rule. And he said, if you do, then you will surely die. And they didn't take that seriously.
And you make an excellent point there. One rule, and they had everything they needed. I mean, it wasn't like they were hungry, we're this, we're that. How come God did that? No, they were in Garden of Eden. You know, I guess a type of paradise in a sense. Had everything they needed, everything was good. And again, but I think it comes down to the individual and what kind of heart they have, how they receive it, how they, you know, the fact that y'all were here this morning, y'all have some concept of eternity. Y'all have some concept, and it makes a difference. And I appreciate y'all being here. So the thing is you know, we got to, you know, God's trying to get a message through to them, and there are those who don't, who, not that they can't, they just don't. They're not. They have the choice, and they will not choose to serve God. Any other thoughts or anything on that? Because that is such a. I appreciate the comments because that is so deep. It's so we could really dive into it, but time constraints, I guess. Again, and some notes on Leviticus that the Israelites woman blasphemed the name, cursed, and they brought him to Moses, and so it kind of goes over that again. And really, what we're getting into in the next one, you know, the sacredness of God's name, if you will, and I think in here we're the. On this misunderstanding adopted by the Jews has been founded the Jewish precept forbidding the utterance of the divine name, owing to the prohibition that the true pronunciation of the word written and called Jehovah has been lost. Wherever the name appeared in Scripture, the name of Adonai, or I think there's different ways to pronounce that. I think I've heard of Adonai, Ardonai. As you probably know, I'm not the best person to talk about you know, pronunciation, but I have to ask. I meant to ask Wes about that. But you see that where one thing that the Jews got, that his name was sacred, and they even got to where they wouldn't even say it. And actually, so at first I think it says that the high priest would. It said the high priest continued to utter the very name of I'll say Yahweh on the Day of Atonement, long after it had ceased to be used in the reading of scriptures. And when he did so, and that when he did so, those who heard it prostrated themselves, saying, "Blessed be the name." After a time, however, he ceased to pronounce it aloud on that day, lest it should be learnt and used for magical purposes, and consequence, perhaps, of the substitution of Adonai for Yahweh. The Septuagint version always reads for, I'll say, Yahweh, and the English version of the Lord. Any comments or thoughts on that? So basically, They got the message that, hey, God's name, it's sacred, and it's you know, something we don't it's not common. It's you know, that's very uncommon, and we're going to give it the due respect it deserves. And then we're almost out of time. And the Lord spake unto Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the first month of the second year after they came out of the land of Egypt, saying, "Let the children of Israel also keep the Passover at his appointed season, in the 14th day of the month at even, and you shall keep it in the appointed season according to all the rites of it, and according to all the ceremonies thereof shall ye keep it." And Moses spake unto the children of Israel that they should keep the Passover, and they kept the Passover on the 14th day of the first month at even in the wilderness of Sinai, according to all the Lord had commanded Moses, so the children of Israel did. So we see we saw where the tabernacle was set up, and it was almost 2 weeks, or so before they had left Egypt, and now we have where they are doing the Passover. And this was the first observance of the Passover since the Exodus without a positive injunction. The Israelites were under no obligation to keep it till their settlement in the land of Canaan. And if you read Exodus 12:25, it basically refers to them when you're in the land that God, in the land of promise. And so we're going to have to call it there. We're almost at the end, believe it or not. We're almost at the end. So next time we're going to try to finish this up and then go ahead and do some review. Again, don't forget the material that's in the back there